Fast fashion trends and one-time only outfits? Not around here. Welcome back to Tasha Could Make That. Spring has arrived and I can finally start wearing some of my favorite vintage spring wardrobe pieces. Today we're looking at 5 of my favorite handmade vintage wardrobe items that I love to wear in spring. And guess what? They're all at least 5 years old. One of the reasons I love vintage fashion is because I can operate outside of most trends and I never have to worry that my clothes are out of style even when they're several years old, because they're always in style. Join me in celebrating the charm of classic pieces that transcend seasonal fast fashion trends and are made by me to stand the test of time. I'm wearing the first one right now. So this dress was made from Advance 2944 from 1963 and is a wrap dress, as you can see. This is a very special dress to me because I made this 6 years ago with fabric that I bought in London for my 40th birthday the year before with a bunch of sewing friends. So this is a Liberty print poplin fabric. And the year after, I actually got more of this fabric from one of my friends, Marie from A Stitching Odyssey. You may remember her blog. And she was with me when I bought the fabric the year before and then gave me more of it. And so I was able to have enough to make a wrap dress because, of course, wrap dresses use way more fabric than you think they will because they go all the way around and then back again. So there's basically 2 entire full gathered backs to this. So, you know, that eats up a lot of fabric. But one of the things that I love about this dress, other than the dress itself, because look how pretty this is that this was a pattern that I had made a few years before I really realized and made the connection that me having a short torso meant that I sometimes would find that the upper back of bodices was like blousey on me. And I didn't make the connection that I needed to shorten the bodice to get rid of that. So the problem was down here, but it was manifesting itself up here. So I made one version of this that was terrible and I didn't make a muslin and I ended up having to take a couple big darts in the back and it was fine. I could wear it with a cardigan. But I eventually went back to this pattern because I love it so much. It's totally like a vintage swirl dress. And I did a proper muslin, took I think about 1.5 inches off, and voila, I got a perfectly fitting dress out of it. So I kind of conquered this dress pattern and I was really happy about that. And I've made this I think 4 times now. This was actually my birthday dress 6 years ago. I think my most recent one was my birthday dress maybe 2, maybe 3 years ago. I'll have to look that up. I wear this dress all the time in spring. It's very comfortable. It's a great weight fabric. I mean, of course, Liberty, but this is the poplin and it's a wonderful weight. And I love the neckline of this dress. It has gathers going into bias tape, but the kind of clever thing is that ends at the shoulder seams. So the back is actually plain. And I think that's just sort of a nice little different look. So I have pockets in here. Oh, I actually found them. It's so hard to find pockets in this dress. Sometimes I'm like digging around to put my hands in, but I actually found them. Oh, didn't find them the second time. So yeah, pockets are great. But yes, I love this. I wear this all the time. This is definitely a spring favorite of mine. One of my favorite handmade items for spring are these pants that I made 6 years ago. These are another highly modified version of the vintage 1960s pattern Simplicity 4401, which is basically my go-to for vintage pants. I talked about it in my tracing video, which I'll link in a card in the upper right, but I have hacked that pattern from here to the moon and back. These I turned into pedal pushers, and trying to get far enough away from the camera for you to see all that and still have room is difficult, but pedal pushers. Before these, I originally hacked the pattern into a pair of cropped capris with all the vintage jean style top stitching that you see on these ones too, including great back pockets. And then I thought, you know what, I could really go for a cotton twill pair, and because red's my favorite color, how about red? Because I think it goes with everything. And then to make the project slightly more scary for myself, because miles of top stitching isn't already scary enough, I decided to go with white top stitching. But after I got over the initial shock of, oh God, I'm doing white top stitching, this better be good, it was swimming along fine and they look great. These have kind of all the trappings of a pair of jeans, but just in a cotton twill. So I have the little belt loops and then the vintage style pocket top stitching and the back yoke and pockets like I showed you. Things you can do when you make your own clothes. I designed those pockets so that they would fit my iPhone. These also have a hidden zipper in the pocket, which is a styling that I borrowed from 1950s and 1940s women's vintage jeans. The only thing about these is that this is a non-stretch fabric, and I narrowed the legs of these, and mostly I tend to use this pattern with either a very slightly stretched denim or a fabric that has a little bit more just natural give, and this twill does not. So it's kind of like one of those pants where to get down and pick something off the floor, I have to sort of like sidle down to get there. But other than that, I love these. I wear them all the time in spring, and I love them just as much as I did when I made them 6 years ago. Yes, one of my favorite handmade items for spring is a jacket. This jacket was made with Simplicity 3451 from 1950. You've actually seen another version of that pattern in my top 3 favorite vintage coats video, which I'll link in a card in the upper right. I lengthened the pattern and made a longer version to make a little bit warmer of a coat. But this one is an ideal weight for spring and fall. I made this 6 years ago and I wear this all the time in those seasons. And it has a fun kind of cropped, boxy shape to it. It's a nice casual coat, but I can dress it up with a dress or with a skirt, but it also works nicely for cigarette pants too. This was a fun jacket to make. I actually had to scale the pattern up about one size, and I just use a slash and spread method because this coat just has one piece for the front and one for the back because it's a cut-on sleeve, and the wing collar is also incorporated into the pattern. So it's a shape-wise, it's a very easy coat to make. And then you fold back the cuffs, so it's really just 2 pattern pieces other than the back neck basing. And here's a full look at the inside with my snazzy lining and, of course, my embroidery in the back neck basing, which I love doing in all of my coats. One thing that is funny about this jacket is for this great little wing collar, you can see it pops up in the back. And when I made this version, I actually didn't realize that it was supposed to stand up in the back because I couldn't tell from the drawings on the pattern envelope. And so when I was shaping this, I folded it down a little bit. And I think it was maybe a year or 2 later that I realized, wait a minute, I think that's supposed to be completely popped up in the back. And so about 5 minutes before I started filming this, I took it to the ironing board and finally pressed it up so that it would stand up on its own, which I'd been meaning to do for like 3 or 4 years. And I finally did it today. The thing with a crop jacket is that it kind of needs to match what you're going to wear. And so even though I would be more inclined to pick a brighter color or a plaid, I love plaid coats. I have so many, it's a problem. But I went with black with a little bit of a tweedy fleck, figuring that that would match just about anything. And it's proved to be a great choice. So even 6 years later, I pull this out and I think it matches almost anything that I'm going to wear it with. Even though it's a darker color, mostly what I'm wearing is usually quite vibrant. And so it still feels very spring-like when I put the whole outfit together. That being said, I always look at this jacket and think, oh, I love this so much. I could definitely stand another one in another color. The curse of loving to make coats, what can I say? This top is one of the more unique things that I've sewed. This is a hooded shirt that I made 6 years ago from a vintage pattern from the 50s, McCall's 3942. This is definitely different from my usual sewing projects. First, I don't sew a ton of blouses. And second, how often does one sew a top with a hood? But it's such a fun pattern and I love wearing this item in spring. This had some kind of interesting elements that I'm not usually used to sewing. Cuffs, which I think I'd only ever made when I sewed my first coat, the button front bodice, which I have done that a few times, drawstring waist, and obviously big gigantic hood. Even though it's a billowy fit, I did like that this pattern was shaped with bust darts, which I did lower because I always need to lower bust darts. And I think overall, the fit of it turned out to be pretty much exactly what I was thinking of. I initially wanted to make this in flannel fabric, and then I thought, I don't know, that might end up being a bit too bulky, particularly around the waist because of the drawstring waist. And I wouldn't say no to ever doing that, but I think it would need to be in a really lighter weight flannel, so I might still try it someday. But right now, one hooded shirt in my wardrobe is plenty. But I do wear this a lot, even though I made this 6 years ago. It gets plenty of wear in spring too. This dress is another spring favorite. I actually sewed this 8 years ago, and I still wear it as much now as I did when I made it. This is made from the V-neck sleeveless bodice from Gertie's Ultimate Dress Book, and I love the way this bodice fits on me. Exactly what I wanted for this, a nice, plain, well-fitting, simple V-neck bodice. And I don't wear a ton of V-necks, but I do really love it for this dress. I made this dress in fabric from Hearts and Found on Etsy, who is a vintage dressmaker and also sells fabric. I really wish it was still available because it's such a gorgeous print. This print is obviously what really makes this dress shine with this plain bodice and just simple gathered skirt. But I absolutely adore it. And the kind of fun thing is that the fabric on the back is very different how I place the print. And it was kind of fun because I love to match a print along a center back zipper, but the way the flowers were oriented in the back, I didn't need to match the print at all. I just went right between the flowers. So I had to place the flowers exactly where I wanted them, but I thought that was kind of clever personally. One of the things that was interesting about this dress when I made it is I tried a technique, I believe, for the first time, and I'm not sure where I picked this up. But if you're sewing a V-neck, particularly if it's a deep V-neck and or you have a large bust, both of which were the case for me for this dress, you can ease stay tape in the seam line that's just a little bit smaller than the seam length, maybe 1/4 of an inch or so. And what that does is makes the fabric want to hug your body and curve back towards you so you don't get a big gape between your chest and the fabric. And that worked out perfectly for this dress, and I've done it for any V-neck bodice that I've made since. And I think it works great. So, hot tip for you on a V-neck bodice. But I absolutely adore this dress, and I wear this all the time. I mean, I wore it earlier this week. I really do wear this just as much as when I first made it. The print is so gorgeous and vibrant, and it just makes me smile every time I see it. The only thing about this dress is that I didn't make a belt for it, and not all of my dresses have belts, but I went through a period of time where I didn't like making belts, and then suddenly I did like making belts. And if you're into belts, you can follow my belt making tutorial. I'll link it in a card. Super easy to make a quick matching belt. And because I still have some of this fabric left over, small amount, I think I have enough to make a matching belt. And I talked about this in my vlog video, so you can look at that in the upper right-hand corner card. But I was thinking about making a belt for a dress that I had made several years ago, and I may do that for this dress. Of course, I have actually been saying this to myself for, I think, 2 springs now. So we'll see if that actually happens this year. And that's the last piece for this video. These are all wardrobe items that are 5 to 7 years old. I realize I said 8 for the one, but it was 7. And I enjoy wearing them as much now as I did when I made them the first time. I love that sewing and embracing vintage styles allows me to create and wear long-lasting pieces like this. And when we do that, it helps make a little bit more sustainable choices for our wardrobes. And if you're into vintage like I am, then you're always so out of style that you're perpetually in style, so you can confidently defy fast fashion trends. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon with more vintage sewing adventures. Bye.